live town hall meeting. We've gotten a lot of input from folks around the state of Montana, a lot of questions, and we'll get to those very, very quick. But I think these town halls are very, very important. It really is an opportunity for me to reach out to Montanans across the state of Montana and talk about issues that they're concerned about. And I'm going to get into a few of those in my opening, and then we'll probably get into more of them when we get to the questions and answers, depending on the questions you guys put up. But it is an opportunity for me to hear from my constituents. I appreciate you being on. It's why I'm doing this town hall, and it's good to hear from you. You may wonder where we're at right now, because this isn't the location we did the last one of these town halls. I did it in my office in the Hart Building. Today, this evening, I should say, we're in the Russell Building in the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee Room. This is a committee room that I took over the ranking member of on this committee. This is a committee room where we do most of our business on the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee. If you look right behind me, that's where the chairman of the committee sits, in that middle seat on that row right behind me. That's Johnny Isaacson. I usually sit to Johnny's right. The Democrats sat on this side, the Republicans sat on this side. And this is a committee that has been very, very bipartisan. It's no exception this Congress. It's a committee that really has checked their politics at the door and are able to do some really good things. And a prime example of this is a guy by the name of David Shulkin, who you may have read about in the paper, who just got confirmed yesterday. Maybe it was the day before. Actually, it was the day before. 100-0 in the United States Senate. And part of the reason he got confirmed 100-0 in the United States Senate, first time it's happened in this Congress, is because he passed out of this committee with the unanimous vote too. And everybody spoke to the fact that David Shulkin was up to the job of being VA Secretary. And I believe he is. And I think that David can do a really good job as VA Secretary. I think he has the tools to do that. But it is going to be up to the committee that serves in this room to hold him accountable and to make sure that he does the job that the veterans expect and put the veterans first. Just a second. Been fighting a touch of a cold, so the frog's getting the throat. But this is a great, like I said, great committee, and it's a great committee to serve on, and we have great friendships on this committee on both sides of the aisle. I have also received a ton of questions on Russia and General Flynn and President Trump's connection with Putin. I can tell you that starting with General Flynn's resignation yesterday, this is an issue that needs to be dug into. I am advocating for a blue ribbon independent commission with broad authority to dig into it, similar to the 9/11 Commission, to dig into what has transpired here, because there's a lot of information coming out, and we need to get to the facts, and that is a fact. From a national security standpoint, this is a very, very important issue, and we absolutely need to do this investigation, do it in the light of day so that people can see this investigation as it unfolds. I can tell you right now, we do not have that independent commission. Right now, it's going to be done by the Intelligence Committee, which is the main committee of oversight on these kind of issues. And I actually think that if that's the way we want to go with the Intelligence Committee doing the investigation, that's fine, as long as it's done in openness, so we can have sunshine, so we can see what's transpired, so the American people can see what the facts are. I think if it's done in a classified session, which means it's closed, no press is allowed, no cameras allowed, no people are allowed, I think that's a huge mistake. So look, everybody's innocent until proven guilty. This is about our national security. This is about a guy that is not a good actor. Putin is not a friend of the United States and never has been, and somebody who needs to be watched. And if there has been sensitive information that has been transferred by this administration or anybody else for that matter to the Russians, there's serious consequences for that, and there should be serious consequences. But hopefully that didn't happen. Hopefully when we find out the truth, that won't have happened, but we need to find out the truth. The other issue that we've received a lot of mail on and a lot of comments on this Facebook Live event is the nominees. You know, why did I vote for this person? Why did I not vote for that person? How come he did this? How come he did that? I'm going to back up a little bit because now I have served here while two different administrations have set up their cabinet. I can tell you the previous administration, the Obama administration, those nominees were vetted before we got them. In fact, their questionnaires were done before the president was sworn in. That hasn't been the case in this particular administration, and we've had to do a lot of vetting of these candidates that have been up for these cabinet positions. Many of them have had a lot of money, and there's nothing wrong with having a lot of money, but it just takes longer to vet that out and find out their connections, whether it's having an account in the Cayman Islands to avoid taxes potentially, we've got to find that out. Whether it's having a loan with a foreign government, we've got to find out, because all that can have national security implications depending on the position they're being put into. So, you know, I've had my issues. It's well documented. I did not vote for Betsy DeVos. Why? Because she never spent any time in a public school classroom. And I think it's kind of important, if you haven't been there as a student, and you haven't been there as a teacher, haven't been there as an administrator, if you haven't been there as a school board member, it kind of disqualifies you for that position. But nonetheless, she got confirmed, and she's in that position. We need to hold her accountable. On the other side of the coin, we've got other folks that I have supported. General Mattis, head of the DOD, is a good man, and I think will do a very, very good job as head of the DOD, and the list goes on. I mean, we could go through every one of them, and if we have time tonight, we might. And then finally, I just want to talk about Gorsuch. Gorsuch is the nominee for the Supreme Court. This is a very important position, maybe one of the most important decisions I make as the United States Senator. As you well know, the Supreme Court, the third branch of government, plays a very, very important role in the checks and balances and the law of this land. And I think it's important that we give Neil Gorsuch a fair shake. And I have met with him in my office. He presents himself very, very well. I can't tell you whether I'm going to vote for him or against him at this point in time, because I need to do more work looking at some of the decisions he's made, some of the opinions he's written, and then we'll make a determination. Keep in mind, this will go on, this Supreme Court nomination vetting, if you want to call it that way, the questions and answers that would be posed to him, the meetings that he's going to have, the confirmation, the hearing that he'll have in the Judiciary Committee will go on for the next 5 or 6 weeks. So this is a long process, and it should be a long process. And I think it's an opportunity to try to get a person who understands rural America, understands the Constitution, understands the gravity of the position that they're going into, and quite frankly, see the kind of decisions they've made in the past, because I think that will dictate the decisions they're making in the future if they happen to be confirmed to the Supreme Court. Now we'll start with the questions. Let's see here. We've got Debbie from Missoula. It says, how do we protect public education from privatization? Public education is the great equalizer in a civilized society and the foundation of our democracy. You are correct on that, Debbie, and I think this question comes from Betsy DeVos, because Betsy DeVos, through her confirmation process, makes no bones about it in her private life, and quite frankly has investments in private schools. That aside, I think how you protect public education is making sure that the people who represent you in Congress, myself, Senator Daines, Congressman Zinke for the time being, understand that public education is the basis for our democracy. Without it, we wouldn't have a democracy, because quite frankly, democracies don't work when the societies are illiterate. It is what set us aside from other countries in this world for centuries, and it's also what's given us a middle class that's been second to none. And without that public education, we would be in serious, serious trouble in this country. It's one of the building blocks that the forefathers saw that makes incredible sense. And it's one of the things that my parents valued. It's one of the things that I value, being a former teacher and school board member, and now U.S. Senator. I can tell you that I would absolutely be contacting them about things like the IDEA, which deals with disabled kids, making sure that's funded up to snuff, and making sure that your local school board and local legislator is passing the information along and ensuring that the state and local level that schools are not privatized. I think it's critically important, especially in a rural state like Montana. All right, get my glasses on, we'll read the next one here. We've got Kim from Great Falls. It says, I'm a woman veteran, retired Navy. Why don't female veterans have access to a full-time OBGYN in Helena? I'm working on a bill to get more docs on the ground in Montana and more of those docs into the VA. I can tell you the VA is short-staffed when it comes to docs and nurses. We need more of them. I'll tell you the private sector's in the same boat, so it's not like they're alone on this. But these folks have served our country, and we're on a different playing field now than we used to be on. In that we have a lot of women in important positions in the military, and I think that's a very, very good thing. And when those veterans get out of the military, they become veterans, and we need to provide them with the kind of health care they need, and really focus on the veterans that have served this country, male and female. You might have heard a buzzer in the background just now. In these offices, including my office in Hart, there's a clock on the wall, and I'm looking at it right now, that has a series of lights. And whether it goes into a quorum call, which means people don't talk, that clock will buzz. And if they come out of a quorum call, they will buzz. If we go to a vote, they will buzz. The good news is we either went into or went out of a quorum call, and I don't have to go vote, so we can continue this Facebook Live session. Next, we have Sand from Plains. That's a cool name, man. Living in Big Sandy, I appreciate a name like Sand. It says, I want to thank you for your part in establishing a moratorium on mineral exploration north of Yellowstone Park in the area of Immigrant Peak. What can we do to help maintain that moratorium or block future mineral development in that area? We need a bill. We need an act of Congress. And we're going to be dropping in a bill to do exactly that. It's one of the special areas, quite frankly, in our country, and certainly a special area for Montana. Incredible economic driver, and it's something that we need to do, and we'll be putting a bill in, and hopefully we'll get the entire congressional delegation to support it. One thing to remember, though, it is a very site-specific bill that we're putting in just for that area. That means we're probably going to have to attach it to another bill through an amendment process in order to get it passed, because we won't have time to deal with it on an individual basis when we're dealing with nationwide issues. Next we have Audrey from Fromberg. It says, wildfires are a threat. What's your plan to address it? We've got several, actually. We need more maintenance in the forest. We need more trees cut, quite frankly. And right now, over half the Forest Service budget goes to fighting fires. So we need a wildfire funding fix, which takes the funding for wildfires offline and treats it like a natural disaster, which is what it is. And then the other thing we need to do is pass a farm bill that builds on our last farm bill, which works off of collaboratives to actually cut some more trees, do some more trail maintenance, do the kind of things we need to help prevent these fires from becoming a problem. You need to know this, and that is that part of the problem we have with wildfires in this country is, number one, we don't have enough forest management going on in the forest. Number two, we got a thing called a pine beetle that has come in and killed a good portion of the trees. Now, we've had a pretty good winter in Montana. We'll see what effect that has on the pine beetles. Maybe it's killed them, maybe it hasn't. But the bottom line is that it's real, and the pine beetles are real, and they aren't going to go away with one cold winter. It's going to take multiple ones. And we just need to treat the forest with some common sense measures. The forest is in the ag department for a good reason, because we need to manage the lands just like in the forest, just like we manage our ag lands. So, we've got a lot of work to do there. There has been some collaboratives that have really, I think, helped focus the Forest Service and focus the private sector on doing a good job with conservation and cutting trees and restoration. But we have much more work to do. And we've got some bills to do that. The firefighting fix is one, but we also need to, the easiest one is to expand upon the farm bill. Next we have Lori from Colstrip. And Lori says, how do you plan on defending Montana's coal industry and the hardworking people that depend on it to support their families and those who depend on reliable, affordable electricity produced from Montana coal? Coal is going to be a part of our energy portfolio for a while. The fact is that natural gas has had its impact, regulation has had its impact, but the bottom line is that coal's going to be around, so we got to figure out ways to burn it better. And I've got a bill to increase research for coal capture and sequestration. I think that's very, very important moving forward. We've got some tax credit bills that will help for the mining of coal too, moving forward. But make no mistake about it, I think coal's going to be around a while, and we need to figure out how to burn it as clean as we possibly can, and it'll help with those jobs. I've also got a bill that deals with tax credit for capturing CO2 and sequestering it, increasing that cap for coal-fired electrical plants. So we've got a number of different directions we're going here, and can tell you that the people of Colstrip, you know, times are changing, but that doesn't mean they'll necessarily be done. I think that what we're going to see is we're going to see a multifaceted energy portfolio that's going to include, as we've seen already, some renewables like wind and solar and geothermal and conventional sources like natural gas and coal. So hopefully we can move forward and keep energy affordable, because it's an incredibly important component to our economy in Montana. Next we have Chelsea and Helena. It talks about the Affordable Health Care Act, otherwise known as Obamacare. It says cancer patients and survivors need affordable coverage that will cover their treatment and follow-up care. Will you pledge to vote against any repeal of the ACA that doesn't include simultaneous replacement plan that covers cancer patients and survivors? The short answer is yes. I think one of the real advantages of the ACA is it took off lifetime caps. And for the folks that have somebody that has cancer in their family, which is probably everybody on this Facebook Live, knows somebody that has had cancer. Once you hit a lifetime cap under the old system, they'd kick you off. So when you needed the health care the most, you didn't have the health care. What the ACA did is remove that lifetime cap. If you got cancer, you hit that cap no matter what figure it was. They couldn't kick you off. They had to keep covering you. I think that's very, very important. I also think covering of pre-existing conditions is very, very important. I also think being able to keep your kids on the plan until you're 26 is very, very important. All those things are in the Affordable Health Care Act. And I can tell you that I will never vote to repeal the ACA unless we have a plan that increases, and listen to me, access. So if you live in a small town, you gotta have access. Otherwise, you're not gonna be able to live there if you're over the age of 50. And affordability. And that's a big, big part. Now, I will also tell you that I've had a number of sessions around the state of Montana over the last couple months talking about the Affordable Health Care Act. And I've had a number of people walk in and say, you know what? Because of the ACA, I can't afford my health insurance anymore. I'm paying $2,000 a month, and I have a $10,000 deductible, and it's going to cost me, you know, $24,000, $34,000 before I can even afford to get sick. Look, that is a huge problem, and we need to address that problem. I can tell you that's more of a problem with insurance than it is with the ACA, but nonetheless, regardless who is blamed, we need to focus on that problem. And I think we can. I think there's some things we can do with transparency in prescription drugs. I think there's some things we can do with insurance company transparency that will help drive those premiums down. And there may be some other things we need to do to tweak the ACA to help drive those premiums down. But to throw away the entire ACA without a replacement, which is where we're at right now, would be a huge mistake. And that's what I heard when I went across the state of Montana also, with few exceptions. Next we have Cheryl in my old stomping grounds of Liberty County. That's my old state Senate district. That says, how are you going to protect Medicare and Social Security? Well, that's a great question, Cheryl. And I will tell you that there are, I voted against Price for the Director of Health and Human Services because he wants to privatize Medicare. That's why I voted against him. Everybody says, well, the president wants to have his team. You got to let him have his team. I'm not going to vote for a team that wants to privatize Medicare. That's part of holding the president accountable. and he got confirmed, but I'm still gonna hold him accountable on that. We cannot privatize Medicare. I do not want seniors walking out that may get a check from the federal government and then have to take money or find money from somewhere else. And a lot of these folks living on fixed incomes are having to make tough decisions already. Now they gotta make a tough decision whether they're gonna have health care or not. It's totally ridiculous. Social Security, another one, we need to go to the mat to fight for this. This has been a program that's worked very, very well for 70, 75 years. And quite frankly, was never meant to be a retirement account, was meant to be a safety net. If we take that away, it's a huge, huge mistake. And I will tell you that there are things we can do that can fix these programs and make these programs work, but it's going to take bipartisan help to do it. And we cannot have leaders within the administration that want to privatize these things. It will make our elderly folks being in a world of hurt. And I'm going to tell you, just unequivocally, I was told a long, long time ago when I first got into politics, you take care of two sets of people, the young and the elderly. And Social Security and Medicare are about the elderly. We need to make sure they're protected. And we will do that to the best of our ability, and I'll be screaming loud if we don't. Next question is from Stephen from Red Lodge. It says, do you support improving NAFTA? Absolutely, unequivocally, I support improving NAFTA, and I think the currency manipulation piece is what the president should have done instead of throwing the whole thing out. And the next question is do you support the retraining or training of workers to a higher skill employment opportunities? Absolutely. It's one of the reasons that I've supported TAA for the folks in the mill up at Columbia Falls. It's one of the reasons I support year-round Pell for folks who are trying to get retrained and move into a different line of business or improve themselves in the business they're in. I want to talk about NAFTA just for a second, though. Canada is our largest trading partner. Mexico, we do a lot of trading with Mexico. Have I had some issues with NAFTA? You bet I have. Country of origin labeling, we ought to have it, and NAFTA has prevented us from getting it. It doesn't mean you throw the whole thing out. It means you go back to the negotiating table and figure out how to make country of origin labeling work. Grain going north to Canada, right now, if you've got number one hard amber durum, it's treated as feed when it goes north. If it comes down, we treat it like number one hard amber durum, which is worth a lot more. Maybe not quite a lot more in this environment, but under most cases because grain prices are so low. So NAFTA has its problems, but I'll also tell you that they're the number one trading partner for us. So we've got to figure out ways that we can negotiate both. And so it's really important. You don't throw it out. You make what you've got, keep what you've got that works, and make the rest better. And I will tell you that I've had just about every ag group in the last month come into my office. I've had grain growers, I've had barley growers, I've had malt growers, I've had the pulse growers, I had potato growers are in today, and they are all very, very concerned about not only our trade relations with Canada, but also our trade relations with Mexico, and we're talking about a 20 or 30% tariff to build the wall. And I would just tell you that if we lose that market, we got big problems. And I had just heard today, as a matter of fact, I read where Mexico was looking at Argentina to source some of their feed. That could be a problem moving forward. So we need to be smart about this stuff. Like I said, I've had my problems with NAFTA, but you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You get to work and make what you've got better by improving on the good and fixing the bad. Next we have Davis. What is your plan to combat campaign finance loopholes? Look, as a matter of fact, very timely question, Davis. We just dropped in 3 bills. I'll tell you what they do. The first one was I was told to do this by the voters of Montana when they passed I-166. And that was, they said, put a constitutional amendment in that says corporations aren't people. I proudly did that because I don't believe corporations are people. I get up on the farm, I've got a farming corporation. Never once have I woke up in the morning and seen my corporation driving my tractor. When that happens, I might change my mind, okay? But the fact is corporations aren't people, and they shouldn't have the rights people have in our elections, and that's what this is about. The second thing I did was a bill the second bill I had was a bill that said, hey, if you give more than $5,000 to these dark money corporations, you have to declare it. You have to tell the people that you gave $5,000. And quite frankly, I think it only makes sense. It puts more transparency on the process. We got a lot of folks that dump a lot of money into states they don't live, and try to influence those elections. We ought to know who those people are that are trying to influence those elections. And the last one is just a good government thing. It's called the e-file bill. The House electronically files their donations, the candidates do when they get them. The Senate needs to do that too. This bill would save $500,000, which I guess in the federal government terms is a rounding error, but 500 grand is still 500 grand. And it would give you access to these databases immediately. If I was getting a donation for $1,000, it would be entered in electronically. You would know it almost immediately, and I think it's a great thing. It's a great thing, and hopefully we can get these three bills done. I think they're 100% Montana, and I think it would help with the campaign finance system we have. Just on a sidebar, I will tell you, we have a lot of partisanship that goes on here, and it kind of disgusts me. Montana is a place where people work together to build it. My grandparents, my parents, my generation, hopefully my kids and grandkids will continue that. What we have here is not a lot of folks working together. This Veterans Affairs Committee may be one of the exceptions. And if we could get some good campaign finance, I think it would help the workability here and make this place less partisan. And I really do believe that. I think if we could get some transparency, get some sunlight shined on our campaign dollars, it would make a big difference to the people of this country, and maybe get more people even to the polls to vote, which would help our democracy too. I just got a note here from my brain trust that said 1,000 people are on this call. Hello, everybody. That's good. Thanks for being on. We appreciate it. We got another question. We got Lydia from Kalispell. I want to be an intern in DC. How do I do it? Give my office a call. Look, you're in Kalispell. Give Chad a call up in my Kalispell office and tell him you want to be an intern. If you want to be it in DC, we'll get your paperwork and get it started. And we have a lot. I'll tell you something about the intern program for the folks that don't know this. We get probably 4 or 5, sometimes more than that, sometimes a few less, interns in the fall, in the spring, and in the summer. I use them just like their staff. And give them the kind of experience they need to do, and tell them, if you guys want to see something, let me know what it is. We'll take you to that committee, or we'll let you go to that committee if I don't serve on it, and you can get a view of how your government works from my seat. And I think it is really, really a good program. And then what happens oftentimes when I have staff openings and we got a really good intern, I'll give them a call. Say, hey, you guys got a job? If you don't, we'd be interested in interviewing you for a job. And I think it's a really good program. I would encourage this, though. I wouldn't do the internship until I got out of high school and into college. Oftentimes, colleges will give you credit to do the internship program. Take advantage of that. My son actually interned for Max Bacchus, made some great friendships, and really connected up with a lot of good people that he still is with today. And it was 12 years ago that he did an internship for Max. So it's a great experience. But give Chad a call in my Kalispell office, or you can you give us an email, a shout on the email here at use info@tester.senate.gov. We'll get it to the right person. Thanks for your willingness to want to be an intern. We like those guys. Ashley in Great Falls says, how are you going to protect Planned Parenthood? That's a great question. There's been a lot of folks out there that are saying defund Planned Parenthood, and they're doing that not because there's a line item in the budget for Planned Parenthood. They're just trying to cut the dollars off that go to Planned Parenthood. During the ACA debate, I heard a lot of folks say, you can keep your doctor. You get to keep your doctor. Those very same people are now saying, we're going to defund Planned Parenthood. You can't keep your doctor. Look, Planned Parenthood provides health care to a lot of women, some men, and I think it's a critically important piece of our medical puzzle that we have in this country. And we're going to continue to fight for Title X funding to make sure that they can continue to provide the services that particularly low-income women and men depend upon. And I just think that it's really important when it comes to things like cancer screenings. It's really, really important. And especially in a state like Montana, it's a rural state, we should not be taking away options from people on where they can get their health care. It's critically important. Next, we have Evan from Billings. It says, how do you propose we deal with our nation's debt? I've always considered this to be a serious issue, and I'm tired of it being ignored until we need to raise the debt. To address the debt is when we get to the debt ceiling, because there's a lot of things that could be done here to take care of the debt. And I can tell you that, and you've heard a lot of people say this, but this is true, there are very, very few fiscal conservatives that serve in Washington, D.C. But there's some things we can do. I actually came, even though I'm a Democrat, I came from a family that was very fiscally conservative. That's how they survived on the farm, and it's quite frankly how my wife and I have survived on the farm. You don't buy everything you want, you buy it if you need it, and you only buy it if you got the money. And so one of the things you can do, what we can do here, what we need to do, is we need to look at programs that have been around on the books for a long time. Some of these programs have been on the books for 50, 60 years or longer. Do we still need them? Do they still create jobs? Are they things that help our economy move it forward? Are they things that help our society be a better thing? Now, every one of these programs have a bunch of people out there that are supporting it. So you've got to get your ducks in a row, but let's eliminate the programs that are no longer necessary. Let's take a look at the programs that are duplicative. I've heard there's 10 or 12 trade programs that deal with just wheat. I raise a lot of wheat, and I like to see that wheat be exported, but the bottom line is, do we need 10 programs that do that? Do we need a program in USDA and another one in commerce, and God knows where the other ones are, to export wheat in this country? I don't think so. And I think that's how we do it. I came out of the state legislature where we had to make tough choices to balance the budget because our Constitution said we need to balance the budget. I wished we had that law here. I think we could get that law here. It would have to be done over a series of years, or it would have some pretty draconian effects on people in business. But that's what we need to start striving for. What I've always said is that the Appropriations Committee, which deals with spending money, and the Finance Committee that deals with taxes, should deal with these spending programs and tax earmarks. Do you know that we have more tax credits than what we take in taxes? We have $1.4 billion in tax credits, and we take in $1.1 billion in taxes. We need tax reform badly. That's another way to deal with the debt, but we can't do it on a revenue neutral basis. It has to be by broadening the tax base and making some of these, quite frankly, deductions go away. Next, we have David and Margaret from Knoxon, and I would tell you that I got a little word on this earlier that David and Margaret just set up their Facebook account to be on this Facebook Live, and I just want to say thanks. You're one of the 1,000 folks that are on it, maybe 1,002 with you guys. And I would just say that you sent in a bevy of questions, and we like that, and we will answer them by email. And I just want to say thanks for being on board. I look forward to meeting you sometime. Knoxon's a great little town. My brother, I got two brothers, and my parents used to live over there, but they passed away over in Coeur d'Alene. So we used to go through your neck of the woods with some regularity. So thanks for getting online. Next we have Linda from Glendive, and she says, Senator Tester, with all the acrimony from both sides of the aisle and from the country, what would your response to getting this country united and moving forward? Well, part of it's leadership. There's no doubt about that. And I think you have to have good, solid leadership with a vision on how to move forward. I've talked about campaign finance. I think that's a huge, huge problem. And then, quite frankly, you know, there's a lot of reports, and it's not without good reason. There's a lot of reports on how we fight with one another here. But I've got to tell you that I've got a lot of great friends, and they're not only friends of mine, I'm friends of theirs. A lot of them are on this committee, in this room, the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee, but there's a lot outside where we don't agree on everything, but we can find common ground to move forward. And I think what's happened with all this money dumping into these campaigns is we've empowered the far right and the far left. And the work used to get done here in 70% in the middle, and it doesn't anymore. And that's why I think we need campaign finance reform in a big, big way, so we can get this country moving forward. And I can tell you that, and I think Max Baucus said this in the paper, I think I read it today, and it's a fact. We live in the greatest country of the world. He said everybody's envious of the United States, and we do. But I'm also going to tell you that that didn't happen by accident. That happened by folks working really hard that served in my position and other positions in this country. And I think that part of the reason that I'm very, very concerned about the Russia thing is that it is so contrary to where this country's been in the past. And that's why we need to get to the facts, because it's really important. So I kind of got off topic there a little bit, but do want to thank you for your question, and I think that those are some of the ways we can get this place a little more functional. Michael and Bozeman, what do you think of Steve Bannon? I can tell you that I haven't read a lot of good things about Steve Bannon, and I think that the president putting him on the National Security Council could be a real problem. I think he's an incredibly smart man. I think he knows, he certainly knows how to win campaigns, and he knows how to deliver a message. But I can also tell you that he has said some things and was part of an organization that very, very much concerns me that, for at least from my perspective, isn't what Montana's about. But we will see. We will see what happens. I can tell you that the White House right now is in a bit of turmoil, and I may be generous with that statement. And part of that turmoil may be because more because of Bannon than Trump, and that's what I'll say about that. So thank you for the question. Appreciate it a bunch. We've got Jedediah. Great name, from Missoula. What can we do to keep public lands in public hands? And that is fight the fight. Public lands are an incredible economic driver in this state of Montana, and I'm going to tell you something. If we sold them, there's probably darn few Montanans, this many probably, that could buy them. And so they would go to out-of-state interests for the most part. A lot of our favorite fishing holes and hunting sites would be locked up. A lot of our favorite places where we go hiking and biking would be locked up. It would not be a good thing. But your question is, how do we do it? You got to write, you got to call, you got to tell folks that this is important. Our public lands and our outdoor economy furnishes us with about $6.4 billion in economic growth. That's more than any other industry in the state of Montana. 64,000 jobs depend on our public lands and our outdoor economy. So it's a big, big, big issue, and you need to stay engaged. So we've got Ed from Billings, and I know this, Ed. How you doing, Ed? Good to see you. Appreciate you sending in a question. I think I haven't read it yet, but we'll get to it. What are your thoughts on the new VA Secretary and the Secretary's view on veterans care? I've known David Shulkin for a while, and for 18 months to be specific. I think he's got the capacity to do a really good job. There will be no honeymoon period with him as VA Secretary because he served there and he knows the problems. He knows the choice program well. He knows that it has been a colossal wreck. He knows that the VA has to do some things to fix it. He also knows that Congress needs to do their part to fix it. And I'm willing to help him. And I'll hold him accountable as he holds us accountable. He's talked about privatization. He is not for privatization, which I think is a good thing. I think the VA gets a lot of bum raps. Ed, as you know, and I think we've talked about, in fact, I know we've talked about this. Once you get through the door, it's pretty darn good health care. Getting through the door can be a problem. So I think that Shulkin is, well, let me put it this way. I wouldn't have voted for him if I didn't think he could do a good job. And I think he will do a good job. I think it's going to require some oversight. It's going to require some good communication. In that vein, he's coming in my office tomorrow, and we're going to find out exactly what his priorities are specifically moving forward, what he's going to attack first, second, third, and right down the line. I had a hearing today, different committee, Homeland Security Committee, where we had the Inspector General of the VA come in and speak. And the VA has some issues. They've got some issues with their electronic medical record and their scheduling and technology, and we're going to talk about that too. Before he got confirmed. We talked about things generally, and he generally told me where he was going to go. He wasn't going to privatize. He was going to work the fixed choice program. He was going to work to make sure that that backlog was cut back for our veterans that you know so much about. And now tomorrow we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of it and really get after it. But the bottom line is that I really feel good about the people on this committee. And I also will say a word about the folks in the House, on the House Veterans Affairs Committee. Phil Rowe is a great guy. He's a Republican out of Tennessee. And Tim Walsh, a Democrat out of Minnesota, the ranking member. Both those guys, the chairman and ranking member, are good people. And I think we're going to have some good communications here. I don't want to build your hopes up too high, but I'm pretty pumped about this. I think it's some good things can happen. Thanks for the question, Ed. We've got another VA question. This is from Deb from Missoula. What is the status of your proposal to exclude the VA from President Trump's hiring ban? Thanks for taking the initiative. It's been well documented. I visited with President Trump last week, and we got invited to a lunch over there. There was 10 folks, 6 Democrats, 4 Republicans. We had a great conversation, and one of the things I talked to him about was the hiring freeze with the VA. And he has made some exemptions for medical personnel, but he hasn't made exemptions for veterans benefits personnel. And I think that's really important, and we're going to continue to push them. We happen to have Ryan Priebus's cell phone number now because he gave it to us, and we're utilizing it on a number of issues, and we're going to continue to utilize it. The goal of that meeting with the president was for me to build a relationship with the president. Look, there's going to be times we don't agree, and we'll probably argue and fight. But there's going to be problems we do. There's going to be also times we do agree, and when we do agree, we're going to get some stuff done. And that's really the bottom line. So I'm approaching this from the standpoint that give him the facts, let him understand what the impacts are of this hiring freeze are, and hopefully common sense will come to the top, and the hiring freeze will go away, not only for the medical folks, but also for the veterans benefits folks. All right. The questions just keep on coming. We've got Jim from Steve I from Stevensville. What can you do to help protect the environment and cope with climate change while assuring reasonable energy needs are met? Good question. I want to see us move away from fossil fuels as a nation, but at times it takes time to develop technology, and I want to see a smooth transition to the future, and so do I. I can tell you that I talked to the previous lady from Colstrip and talked about some of the things we're doing with carbon capture, which I think is critically important from coal. And I said coal's going to be around a while, so we got to figure out technology to burn it cleaner. And by the way, that technology needs to be developed not only with federal dollars, but also with private dollars, because I think there's some real benefits there to both. And then I think we continue to do the kind of things we do here from a research standpoint, and let the private sector do their thing to try to make some of the renewable processes, wind energy, solar energy, which by the way, as a nation, we've made great strides on over the last few years of becoming much more affordable than it was 10 years ago, and continue to help push those along. And then I think, I was just here that should just, it was probably, I was just machine that's very, very complicated. I wished I knew the technology around it, but I don't. But it basically uses pressure to create energy, and no CO2, no nuclear waste. Sounds like a heck of a deal to me. We're not. Sounds like. Said that there's great hope here. So I think there's a lot of things in the minds of people that if we're able to get it out of their energy futures, not only clean but affordable, moving into the future. So it's critical. We've got a ton of questions about Russia. Excuse me. I would just tell you that there were several meetings held today about what Congress should be doing. I think what we ended up is Intel committee was going to do their investigation, and that Intel committee was going to hopefully be as transparent as they possibly could. I think they need to be very transparent, and really move the ball forward on finding the truth and moving forward. Our national security is potentially at risk here, so we need to proceed thoughtfully and methodically and move forward and make sure that there hasn't been things transferred to Russia that could put us in a difficult situation. So I appreciate that question. I wished I could get to every one of the questions on Russia. And oh, by the way, send them in. We'll answer you individually. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. We will do that. But it's obviously a big concern to many Montanans out there who are on this call and who have sent us questions. Kimberly from Billings asked, charter private schools are exempt from complying with IDEA, which is special ed. If school choice is indeed the wave of the future, how do you protect the educational rights of students with disabilities? Huge problem. Huge problem. Accountability on these private schools, huge problem. It's one of the reasons I voted against DeVos, quite frankly. If we head down this road and they're doing it for real, we can scream and holler, but the truth is the damage that can be done will take a long time to undo. The other thing that I would just tell you on privatization that's a killer for a lot of these small schools, and I come from a town that's got a small school. Big Sandy's got, I think it got about 120 kids, K through 12, maybe 140, K through 12. You pull 5 or 10 kids out of that school to go to a private school, and it's going to put them in a world of hurt, because those dollars that they're going to lose is really going to put them in a bind. And so you might, if things are going really well in the private school, you might help those 5 or 10 kids, but you're going to hurt those 110 kids that are left behind. And so it's a big, big problem. And plus there's no accountability. There's no standards for these guys, I'll just tell you. Now Montana's a little bit different, but nationwide that's the case. So we've got another one here. It's Louise from Bozeman. What actions can we as Montana citizens take to make our concerns and our voices heard most effectively? Well, I can tell you on a personal note, the best way to get a hold of me is through email. It truly is. Or picking up the phone. And we'll answer it at the other end. But give us a call and or send us an email, and we'll get back to you. My folks with the letter carriers probably won't like me saying this, but I'll just tell you this. Because of what happened to Daschle 15 years ago with the anthrax stuff, letters take a long time to get here, probably 60 to 90 days, to be honest with you. I mean, I had a person come into our morning coffee that we had, this has been about a year ago, and said, you never answered my letter. And I said, when did you send it? She said, I sent it about a month ago. And I said, I didn't answer because I haven't got it yet. And that's a fact. It just takes a long time for letters to get here. But emails, they're immediate, and phone calls are too. So I think that's the best way to do it. And I would say stay involved. Those folks out there that say it does no good to call your elected official, that's far from the truth. It does very much a lot of good to email, call, or even write letters if that's your mode. It's just you won't get a response very fast. So I would just tell you this. Thanks for being on. I don't know if we still got 1,000 folks or not, but it's been kind of a kick. I want to thank you for tuning in, I guess. Couple reminders. You can go to tester.senate.gov to submit questions. We're going to do another one of these soon. I don't know if we'll do it from the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee room, but we're going to do another one soon. You can also call 202-224-2644, and that'll get you into the DC office. Or if you're in one of the major towns, Great Falls, Kalispell, Missoula, Butte, Helena, Bozeman, Billings, Glendive, did I get them all? You can give those offices a call. Just get online, and the phone numbers are there, the addresses are there, and you can certainly drop us a line. And by the way, the letter thing, the holdup is only if you send them to DC. you send to my state offices, they go, you know, pretty quickly. So I want to make that clear before I went off. I want to thank you all for being on. It's been a pleasure. We covered a lot of issues. Covered a stack of questions that thick.